Okay, so everybody should be on joinpd.com. You should have your paired deck screen pulled up. And we have entered the code HMLWH. Okay, so at this point, does anybody not have the screen that says you're in, your teacher will be with you shortly? Anybody not have that? Okay. So you have a bell ringer. You're going to be typing this to the right of your slide. It says that the prompt was to analyze the arguments presented in the two guessed columns. In your response, develop an argument in which you explain how one position is better supported than the other. Incorporate relevant and specific evidence from both sources to support your argument. Okay, so the question that you're answering, or for your bell ringer, you're going to explain in your own words what the prompt was asking you to do. Right? Remember that I can see your responses immediately when you start typing. Braxton, you're off to a good start. Good job. It looks like most of us are almost done, so take about one more minute. So finish your response in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it should tell you that your screen has been locked. All right, so what are some things that you guys said? Audrey, what did you say?
I said that the prompt would be asking you to explain which side of the argument you wanted to go for or argue about.
Okay, so which of the two sides you're going to support or argue about?
Yeah.
What else? Braxton?
I said the governor says to rate the two arguments and create an argument explaining which and how one position is better supported than the other. Use these over both days in your answer.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some keywords that Braxton had in there. He said, first, that we are going to read and analyze two arguments. Okay, so each of the columns that we read yesterday to write our own A's were both what? Caleb?
Arguments?
They were both arguments, right? Okay, and so then he said you're going to write your own argument telling which position is better supported. Okay, and you have to use details from both texts. All right, so that was a really good answer. You kind of hit all of the things in there. So did everybody understand that? Did anybody not know that that's what it's asking you to do? The good thing is every single response that I got said that you're writing an argument, and I had a lot of people say that you would be using ACE format, okay? So it's perfect. I'm glad that we're on the right track with breaking down these prompts. Our learning target for today says I can evaluate responses to an argumentative extended response question for what? Someone read the first bullet point for me. Audrey?
An effective answer.
Okay, so an effective answer. What's the next one, Mackenzie?
Correct structure.
Correct structure. What's the next one, Eli?
Objective tone.
The next one, Jackson.
Effective evidence.
And then the last one, Connor.
Answer.
Thorough.
And thorough explanation.
Good, thorough explanation. Okay, so let's talk about what some of those things mean. What does it mean to have an effective answer? What do we have to do in the answer portion of our ACE?
Restate.
Let's raise our hands. Jackson?
Restate.
We have to restate and we have to, what are we restating?
The question.
Right, we're going to restate the question and, so restate the question and the prompt, and we have to provide a what? An answer, very good, all right? And then the next bullet point says correct structure. So how do we know that we're going to have the correct structure? What structure do we use for our extended response questions? Megan?
ACE.
ACE, which means that we have what three things?
Answer, citation.
An answer, a citation, and an explanation. Very good. Next one is objective tone. Does anybody know what that means?
Like first person?
Yes! Thank you! Yes, that means that you're writing in third person, which means you're not going to use words like what? I or you or me. Very good. Okay, none of those words. Next is effective evidence. How do we know we have effective evidence?
Cite from the text.
We've cited it from the text, right? And what else do we have to go, or what else do we have to go along with our evidence to make it effective? Let's raise our hands. Mackenzie, what should you have after your evidence that tells us that your evidence is effective?
Like explain what you're trying to say to your evidence.
Exactly, you have to explain what you're trying to support with your evidence, okay? So those last two kind of go together. And then the last one says a thorough explanation. How do you know your explanation is thorough? Jackson?
It's long enough.
Okay, so one thing we talked about is making sure that our orange section or our explanation section is the biggest section, okay? So we have to make sure that it's long enough. All right, so if I say this shows that this is the better argument, is that good enough?
No.
No, all right? You need to tell why and how. Very good. Okay, so your directions for today, what you're going to be doing with your group, you're going to highlight your answers, and I put yellow, answer in yellow, citation in pink, and explanation in orange. However, we didn't have enough markers for that, so you have 3 markers at your station. So you're going to assign your answer, your citation, and your explanation a color. Okay? The next thing that you're going to do is discuss the questions that you have at your station. Okay, so once you get to your station, you have your big sheet, you have a set of questions, you should have at least 3 markers, and then I also gave you the prompt or the directions that were given to the writers for them to write their ACE, and the setup that they were supposed to use for their sentences. Okay? So you have what the writers had when they wrote their ACEs, and then you have some questions to help you evaluate each one. And then the very last one says to provide feedback on the butcher paper using the markers at each station. Okay, so we have these big sheets of paper. Okay, and on each one you have your 3 ACEs. Okay, so out to the side on the white section of the paper, you can write your comments using your marker. Okay, so if you think someone didn't explain their evidence well enough, or they didn't provide an answer, then you can write that. Okay, you guys will be discussing with your group. You have 1 set of questions per group. Okay, so someone needs to take a pencil. Mackenzie.
Are the ACEs like what we did yesterday about should parent?
It's the same prompt, but they're not the ones that you guys wrote.
Oh,
Okay, I looked at some of yours for inspiration, but these were actually all written by me. Okay, because I didn't want anybody to feel upset if theirs was on there. Yes, sir.
Do we need to have like a piece of paper, or are we gonna answer the?
You'll answer the questions on the sheet of paper with the questions on it. So I left you space to answer those. Any questions? All right, so does everybody remember their group number?
Yes.
All right, so we have 2, 1, and 3. So at this time, just leave your computers where they're at. All right, so at this time, you guys go ahead, start reading through those with your groups, start evaluating those, answer those questions. So let's do this, okay? Let me read the first one to you, okay? I'll read them to you, and then I'll let you guys get going, because I know it's kind of weird to read in a group. All right, so everybody look at example number 1. In your groups, look at example number 1. Yes,
Can
McKinsey.
we move somewhere? There's like a slot.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so everybody, eyes on example number 1. It says, hi, Fernandez's argument is better. Fernandez says, the Safe to Sleep campaign has reduced the number of deaths from sudden infant death syndrome by 50% since 1994, just by teaching parents to put babies to bed on their backs. The other side says, parents have been raising children for millions of years without government's help. Even though that makes sense, they were killing their babies when they slept until the training that was offered in 1994. This shows that many parents do not know how to take care of their babies, which is why they should have training like Fernandez says. Okay? So go ahead, in your group, go ahead and discuss that first one and follow those directions. Remember, you're highlighting the answer, citation, and explanation and answering your questions for number 1. You just pick one. Yep, that's perfect. Either one. You can either this group right here. What you guys are doing is you're reading these aces, and then you're going to highlight or underline the answer, citation, explanation, answer these questions for each ace, and then write any feedback off to the side. Okay, on how that person can improve their writing. Well, what do you think? Why? How do you know that?
It might have just thought,
There you go.
this shows where it's switching.
So what do we, is it?
This is
Okay, so what is it called? Your stance is called your what? But in an argument, it's called your what? Big word with a C. Instead of a thesis statement in an argument, we have a claim. Very good. So, it's a C word. Okay, so in an argument, we have a claim, right? And that's where you're taking your stance. So, if it's the other person's side or their claim, then it is the what? The blank claim. It also starts with a C. The counterclaim, very good. And then we have after this, even though that makes sense, okay, so we're shutting down their argument, and that's called your what?
I know, I was just like,
Is this evidence?
yes.
Are there quotation marks around? So then is it evidence?
I mean,
Good, yeah, explanation. It's okay. So, what is it called when we shut down the other person's argument?
I think it's
You said it before. Rebuttal, good. When you're rebutting their argument, you're like, get out of here, other person's argument. My argument is better.
you only have 1 and 3.
Says, does the ace have
How about you rip to the other side? Make sure you're okay. Okay, so. How are you guys doing? No, let's not. Just don't touch that. No, just don't play with it anymore, and just make sure we're on task. If we're playing with whatever that is, then we're not on task.
Yeah,
We're on task.
where you are.
How are you guys doing?
No, it was like that one.
Let me see what you got so far. All right, is anybody not done highlighting and like labeling their answer, citation, and explanation for the first one? Okay, we're going to go ahead and read the second one. And then I'll give you the opportunity to highlight there. So let's look at example number 2. Everybody looking at example number 2? Example number 2. All right. Whether or not parents should be required to complete parental training before being allowed to take their newly born children home is a topic that is widely debated. Kai Fernandez's argument that parenting education should be mandatory is better supported because he offers several detailed examples to effectively support his view. Okay, we should not be writing right now. Our eyes should be on example number 2. In his column for the Freeport Times, Fernandez argues that many jobs from barber to pilot involve specific training. But for the most important job, raising children to be responsible adults, no training is required. And children and society suffer the results of the lack of knowledge. Some people, such as Sophie Thomas, may argue that freedom of choice is a fundamental American value, forcing all parents to learn the same information about children conflicts with this basic right. However, if the government can require people to pass a test or take a class to obtain a driver's license, then it is reasonable to require adults to pass a test or take a class before being allowed to take responsibility for a new human life. As Fernandez mentioned, there are several jobs that require training, so it is completely reasonable for people taking on the job of parenting to have training for that task as well. These points made by Fernandez to support his argument is why his column is the better of the two presented. Okay? So now get with your group and highlight your answer, your citation, and your explanation.
No, the first one absolutely.
Okay, so how did you know that that started the evidence? Perfect. Okay, so we have where it came from, who wrote it, and we have our quotation marks. Very good. Are you working over? How did you guys know that started? Your evidence.
Because it says like.
Okay, good. So we have quotation marks, and it's telling us what about.
It's evidence.
Okay, but how do we know that it's evidence? So we have quotation marks, but what else do we have?
Actually, you need to go all the
Good.
way
It has the text that it comes from.
down there because there's another quote. So you see how it says something such as, like, listen,
All right, if you're done highlighting, you can go ahead and answer questions for number 2. I want you to skip the questions for number 1 because we're not going to have time to go through all of them. And I really want you to focus. I really want you to focus on examples 2 and 3 for your questions. Okay? Because I'm getting a lot of answers, kind of like number 3. So I want us to focus on examples number 2 and 3.
yeah, because it's another quote.
It's on the example number 2 questions are on the back of example number 1 questions. That first page is front and back. So if you're done with example number 2, you can go ahead and start answering the questions.
How do I say explain?
Does ACE have an effective answer?
And then you answer the questions.
No, I mean, the evidence has a very structure. So then go back.
Does the ACE have an effective answer and how do you do
Don't
it?
underestimate yourself. Okay, because sometimes you're like, well, I think this, but I don't know if that's right. Put that down because I'm asking how do you know? Okay? that's a great answer, that the answer is basic, and so is the explanation. So the answer is basic.
Do you think basic is effective?
Not really. Very good.
Yeah.
Do you think it's effective?
All right, is anybody still working on highlighting their example number 2?
I think it's just explained our book. Yeah.
All right, eyes.
Like all.
Guys, eyes on example number 3. This one shouldn't take you too long.
We have all these questions now?
Yeah, you're not supposed to write.
Yeah, it shouldn't take long.
Wait, are they?
You're only gonna do number 2 and 3
Are
though.
we supposed to write on paper? Like which paper?
They can write on the, whichever one's fine, as long as they have an answer. All right, guys, listen, I need you to bring it in. Example number 3, eyes on example number 3. I think parents should not have to take parenting classes to take their baby home from the hospital. Because when parents have to pay for the classes themselves, this could pose a financial burden for many people. And what if parents refuse to take the classes? Would they be fined, arrested? This is why I think parents should not have to take parenting classes. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and highlight those and then give your feedback and answer those questions. Okay?
I think under, you said it was.
Susan, where can you split it up? What word can you use to split up the answer and the citation since it all runs together?
Yeah, I believe that's it.
Very good, Connie, very good.
We can turn it, so we don't have to write it.
Okay.
Yes. All right, guys, listen up. So I have 2 groups ask this, and it's a really good question. Raise your hand if you can't tell the difference between the answer and the citation in this one. Why? Because it's all one sentence, okay? So find the transition word that splits it up, okay? What is that word? Because. All right, let's look for that transition word that breaks it in 2. Yes, Kail?
So it's pretty much a run-on sentence?
It's not a run-on sentence, but we don't have like a clear topic sentence, and then what? Well, what comes after a topic sentence? After our answer, we have our evidence, right? So we don't really have clear evidence, because what don't we have? It just goes into the evidence. What doesn't it tell you about the evidence? Well, what did this one tell you? In his column for the 3-4 times, Fernandez argues that, so it tells us what? Where it came from and who wrote it. Very good. Do we have that in this one? No, it just goes straight from the topic sentence into the evidence. Very good. It's called.
Okay, it does not do anything. You say like, any like thing from what they're gonna talk about?
How are you guys doing over here?
That's good, Andrew. Okay, make sure you have
Yeah, that's fine.
I did that really good.
Huh? Let me see. Good. Good job, you guys. And just work on number 3. Make sure you're discussing. And don't forget to write your feedback out to the side. Okay. Well, let's be careful of that. We good? It's okay. It's okay.
Is this one effective? This is the answer. This argument is better. Is it effective? No?
Why not?
Because it just says it's good.
Yeah, it doesn't say what's better about it. It just says, hey, this one is better. It's like, think about if you're trying to argue whether McDonald's or Taco Bell is better, and you're just like, nope, Taco Bell is better, Taco Bell is better, that is all.
Yeah.
If nobody gives a reason, then do you think it's really effective?
So, like, you need to
Exactly.
have reasons from both sides. like,
Are you
why-
full? So you go ahead and load.
Good, there you go, Eli. Alright guys, I want you to listen up real quick. Eli just gave a really good example. So I said, we were looking at example number 1, and they said that it's not effective because it doesn't say why it's better. And I said, so if you were in an argument about Taco Bell versus McDonald's, and you're like, Taco Bell is better because Taco Bell is better and that's it. He said, no, people aren't going to listen to you if you say that. That you have to say why Taco Bell is better and why McDonald's is not. Okay, so you have to give the explanation or the why.
I didn't say you were. I didn't have
What? There you go. Alright, so listen up, guys. We're not going to get to finish this today, but you guys are doing so great with this. So we will finish this tomorrow in 7th period. But I want, real quick, how are you guys feeling? Let's now play with the markers. How are you guys feeling? I just need a thumbs up, thumbs down. How is this helping you figure out how to write your own ACE? Okay, is it good to have, like, is it helping you to have these examples of what a really good ACE looks like, and a kind of okay ACE, and a not so good ACE? Okay? Because remember, when we do K-Prep, you're going to have extended response questions like this that you're going to have to do. So I just need thumbs up, thumbs down. Braxton? All right, awesome. Okay, so go ahead, you can stop what you're doing, and we will finish this tomorrow, okay? So leave everything at your group station, and we'll finish this tomorrow.